Alright, hello everyone, this is Jakekub, and today I am going to be going over the At War Season 5 intro. I'm not going to play it because I know it's going to be extremely laggy because all this red stuff is not pre-rendered. But if you want to go and see it, just look up At War 5 intro. It's on my channel somewhere. So I'm just going to go over kind of how this intro was made, kind of my thought process behind it. I'm going to start this off by saying that I specifically asked Ostro if I could make the intro for this season, specifically because of the song, which is War by Grandson. Grandson's an amazing artist. You should all go check him out. So the whole thought process behind this was the way the song goes is it's war in the east, it's war in the west, war up north, war down south. That's 4 seasons. This is At War Season 5, so this beginning section is just a precursor to what At War Season 5 is going to be. So, let's go over all the stuff. We've got kind of like some credits, because I didn't like how they looked at the end. So we put them on at the start kind of to add more to the beginning. If there was a logo for each season, and the logo for each season was available, I would have overlaid it on here instead of putting the credits and found somewhere else to put the credits, but that did not work. So I ended up doing this, and all of the text is vaguely based off of the player skin. So this text here it has a hint of orange in it. This one has a hint of like red. This one has a hint of like cyan for Polardo. This one's like kind of green for bacon. And then it's just fairly simple. It starts. Well, it has the blur length, and then it slowly just moves from left to right. That goes for all of these little things here. These right here are just little brightness flashes. That's all they are. They're just little brightness flashes to go with the beat. This adjustment layer here is, you'll see the effect that it has. It kind of just darkens the footage a bit. I feel like looking back on it now, I probably could have chosen a better overlay for this. There's other ones up here in presets, but I probably should have used the same one that I used later on in the intro, to be honest. Then these down here are offsets. So this one kind of offsets it. So what offset does is it's kind of like a transform effect instead of completely moving the footage, it kind of just like replicates the footage on top of it. I don't know, I'm not good at explaining it, but you'll see that like right here is the bar for the edge of the frame, and then you'll see there it is again. So it kind of just keeps repeating itself until you get to here at the very end of the clip. There's also a directional blur on this because that kind of just looks nice. And then the clip goes, and then you move on to the next one, which has a directional blur again, and it has another offset, and somewhere there should be a cropping effect, I believe. It's on the footage. Yeah, there's a crop effect. So the crop effect for here, it goes from center and then bottom out, and from here it goes inwards, and then it's the same thing as here. It goes from bottom out. Then from here, this one was kind of strange because I had it offset upwards, so the crop effect was kind of whack. If I take out this, you'll kind of see that it's just the same thing. It's nothing too special. And then for this last one here, got the offset again, and I'm gonna remove the offset, and you'll see that it's a little strange what happens here. It crops into the corner, and then it crops back out. And combined with the offset, it creates this cool little nice effect. Yeah, that's basically it. So I'll just put this part just Alright, so the only thing I forgot to mention here, we got a crossfade out on this clip. And we've also got a crossfade on this clip, and it also the black bars go in as well. Alright, this part here is when stuff starts getting cool. So we have 1 and 2. These are the 2 parts of the logo. You'll see 1 and 2. Then you'll also see that Sonic and Jay's eyes, they aren't in the background yet, but they are going to start to crop in. So you have the logo. That's kind of the main point of this clip. This little section here where it says "Everywhere is War," and then the logo is going to very quickly scale out. The "At War" is going to zoom in. The flags are going to zoom out, and within like 2 frames, Sonic and Jay's eyes are going to go from very blurry to being visible. And from this point, it was basically just motion tracking, which was not the easiest thing to do. It took the motion tracking on the player models renders was the very last thing that I did in this intro. It was not easy to figure out. Eventually I found a method, and I'll go over it on a later one, because this first one I did differently. But you'll see that their feet are at a certain position. It's a little bit overlaid. You'll see what he looks like. Then you've got the tint is going to fully white out the image. Ignore this background here. I'm actually just gonna get rid of that layer. There was like a little noise effect in the background. If you watch the actual intro, you should notice it. But again, you'll notice that like from here to here, the clips actually look fairly similar. Like they aren't perfect, but the player models look fairly similar when they're zoomed in to when they're not zoomed in. I probably could have done this better. The other alternative to doing this is you could render out the whole thing without doing the zoom in, and then you take the rendered version, throw it back in here, and zoom it in. That is another option, and it would probably be more like realistic. This was my best attempt at recreating the same poses. But yeah, on the players, you've got the players do have a bit of a tint. You can't really notice it too well. Actually, no, you can notice it. If I turn it off, you'll see. So the idea here is that it's kind of like one of those 3, 2, 1 action kind of things, and like in Hollywood. And you have the players, they're standing in position, then you go action, and it zooms in on them, and there is a little bit of color correction on them. So you'll see that there's color correction on them to make it kind of gives off like the gold western vibe. I wanted to give it like a western vibe kind of, because the song kind of gave me that vibe. And then off to the side, it's black to introduce the player. So you got the team color, team name, players, that kind of stuff over there. I was kind of going for like a Hollywood, that 3, 2, 1 action. I had better ideas for this intro that I was just not able to execute. I'm actually going to show it right here. So this is the Phobia Season 5 intro right here. And the ultimate goal would be to have renders kind of like this. You'll see that the renders are... like, it's a whole render. It's not just renders on Minecraft footage. Like, this is all rendered out and stuff. That would have been the ultimate goal. But I don't know how to do that. I asked it how to do it, and it seemed complicated, and I don't have the time to dedicate to learning how to do this. Moving on, I'm going to start explaining the effects for this area now. So, we went over the tint, the color correct. They've also got a drop shadow on them. So, Sonic's is going to, whichever player is on the left, the drop shadows are going to, like, kind of collide at the center. So you'll see Jay's eyes goes that way, Sonic goes that way, and they'd eventually collide. This black triangle thing, it was a little hard to manipulate. It's got a drop shadow as well. I created this black thing in Photoshop, and there's definitely I couldn't figure out how to do a crop in Premiere on an angle, so that's why I had to create this in Photoshop. Yeah, so what happens here is, because it's fully white here, you can't tell that it's going to just instantly cut. So then it just suddenly appears, and it doesn't seem out of place or anything. And then the team name, just like before, you got the transform, so it's going to come in from right to left just because that's the way the black goes. There's also the directional blur on it because reasons. Would it have been better? I'm wondering. Oh no, that's yeah, I had it the right way. So the directional blur is on a 90-degree angle, so it's not straight upwards. It goes out a bit, which yeah, I can't talk. That's basically all there is to it. The character models don't move. The background stays completely solid. As you can see, it's a 0.1% speed on this clip. So the background doesn't move. The only thing moving here is Sonic and Jay's eyes. Now, I did have another version of this intro. I don't have it up. Actually, I could probably find it. Rendered stuff. And is it here? No, it's not there. We'll try this. What I did here, because this right here is kind of bland and boring. Also, you can see the noise effect in the background right there. That's the noise layer that was removed. So this right here is kind of boring. The text is the only thing that's moving here. So what I was playing around with was a zoom in onto them right before the flash. And I thought that looked kind of nice. Ostro and Ri-Fi weren't a huge fan of that, so I ended up not doing that. But anyway, we'll move on. And basically for the rest of these, we've got, just to go into the next one, we've got the crops for a transition. You've got the crops, and then you've got this very complicated kind of rotate in and then rotate out. It didn't look as good as I was hoping it to be honest. Like, not at all. But it serves its purpose as a transition. And then you got the crop again. This is the only time that I used the right here. This is the only time that I used the offset and directional blur. I've already gone over that a few times before. This transition was the most complicated one. So what goes on here is you've got Vicious and Zack, and they're going to very quickly fade out. The black and the team name are going to fade out, and it's going to zoom in on the dirt, and then eventually at a certain point it's going to be entirely stone. So this looks almost entirely like stone, and within a frame it's going to cut straight to stone again. So it looks like a fairly smooth transition. So it starts going down, and then it's all stone. You can't really tell that it's just straight cut. It's kind of hiding the cut. And then it's going to fade into Austro and Country in this cave here. Which was very complicated because I had to scale it frame by frame. So you see they're very small there. And then next frame, they have to be regular size. So this was definitely probably the hardest part. It's probably the part I'm the most happy about with the intro. Just looks nice. I already went over most of this. You've got the crop again, and then you've got the crop again, and then you've got this silly thing again, and you've got the crop again. So I honestly wish I had better ideas for the crop does kind of work, because if I'm going for the Hollywood action cut thing, you would throw the little black thing in front, and that's kind of what the crop is doing in a sense. I could have done it better. every time you make an intro, you have to look back at it and see, what could I have done better? That's how you're going to improve. Other than that, that's really most of what this intro is. I went over everything, except for the motion tracking, which, if we go, we're looking at these, right? So, the way that I did it, you've got, okay, so here's how it happened, right? So you've got Airch and Potsy here, right? And then you've got this adjustment layer. And what the adjustment layer does is, if I turn this adjustment layer off, you will see right there, I will go to 200%, that right there is a tint. And all I did is that I went frame by frame, making sure that Potsy's foot stayed relatively near the center of that little tinted area. And that's how I did the motion tracking. What you can do is, when you put the thing there, and then because it's on an adjustment layer, if you can just press this button here, track selected mask forward, and it will track like that point. I don't know how it works, but it tracks that point, so it doesn't move off of that point. And that's how I did the motion tracking. There's probably better ways to do it. In fact, I'm sure there's better ways to do it, since I'm not very good at this. That's how the motion tracking works in a very simple sense. You need to do it on the adjustment layer, though. That's very important. I think that's most of this intro, though. I went over mostly everything. There's something I didn't go over in this intro, feel free to comment. Just gonna quickly at the end here, we have the black triangle there, and all I just have happen is I rotated it so they kind of just cram together. That's really it. This intro, it took me a long time to make. My motivation for it wasn't always there. Like this beginning part I did in October or something like that. And then the rest of it I did throughout December and January. Mostly January, because I was working on Desire 8 in December. But yeah, that's most of the At War Season 5 intro. I'm not entirely happy with it, but I am happy with it for the most part. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you want me to do more of these in the future, I'll probably keep doing them for every intro that I make, if I end up making any more. But until then, see you guys next time.